Have you ever felt like you have to be everything for everyone just to feel worthy of love? Like the moment you stop being helpful, kind, or easy to deal with, people will leave. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many of us were taught, without anyone saying it out loud, that love must be earned, that we need to be perfect to be accepted. But here's the truth. You don't have to please everyone to be loved. Real love doesn't come with a price tag. It comes with presence. Think about how many times you've said yes when you were exhausted. How often you smiled through pain. How often you stayed quiet just to keep the peace. That constant pressure to be good is not love. It's survival mode. And the more you perform for love, the more invisible you start to feel. But what if love wasn't something you had to earn? What if it was something you could receive and sacrament exactly as you are? This video is a space for that reflection. A safe place to breathe, to think, maybe even to feel some things you've been pushing down. You don't need to do anything. Just listen if that's all you feel up for. And if something here speaks to you, feel free to like the video and subscribe. Not out of pressure, but out of connection. Because here we go deeper, we get honest. And most of all, we remind each other that the kind of love that heals starts from within. There's a reason why so many people grow up feeling like they have to earn love. It often begins in childhood, long before we even understand the word love. A child notices that being quiet, getting good grades, or helping out earns a smile or a gentle touch. She connects affection with behavior, not presence. And so, little by little, she builds a silent strategy. If I behave, they'll love me. This isn't about attention seeking. It's about emotional survival. It's how she learns to feel safe in a world that doesn't always explain its rules. That same strategy doesn't disappear with age, it evolves. As adults, many carry this deep pattern into their relationships and daily lives. They say yes when they mean no. They offer help when they're already drowning. They push through exhaustion just to be liked, to feel seen, to avoid rejection. And when they don't get the love or recognition they hoped for, they don't question the relationship. They question themselves. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. But the truth is, love was never supposed to be earned like a paycheck. This kind of emotional conditioning is powerful because it works. Temporarily. It gives a false sense of control. If I do everything right, I won't be hurt. But the cost? You start editing yourself. You start disappearing behind a version of you that's palatable, polite, pleasing. And one day, you look in the mirror and wonder, who am I when I stop performing? That question can be terrifying, but it's also the beginning of something real. Something that leads to the next realization. One that might just change everything. On the outside, people who always say yes seem kind, helpful, easy to be around. But inside, they're often tired, emotionally drained, mentally foggy, and quietly resentful. When you live to make others happy, your own needs start to disappear. You put everyone else first, and then wonder why you feel empty. The problem is, most people won't notice your exhaustion. They'll just keep taking. And when you finally can't give anymore, they might even act surprised as if you changed. But you didn't change. You just reached your limit. This kind of people-pleasing becomes a silent thief. It steals your time, your energy, your identity. You smile on the outside, but deep down, you feel like you're losing yourself. You start to say, I'm fine, so often that you almost believe it, until your body starts speaking louder. Headaches, burnout, anxiety, that constant tightness in your chest. It's not just stress, it's your truth trying to break through the surface. The truth that you've been abandoning yourself, one yes at a time, in the hope of being enough. But here's the twist. No matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. You bend, shrink, stretch, and still feel unseen. That's because real love doesn't grow in the soil of sacrifice. It grows in truth. You can't keep saying yes to everyone else and expect to feel whole. Something has to give, and often what gives is you. But what if, instead of giving more, you started giving yourself permission to be honest? That shift might feel scary at first, but it's the only way to uncover what's truly yours. Sometimes, what looks like kindness is actually fear wearing a mask. You offer help, smile politely, avoid saying how you really feel. Not because you truly want to, but because deep down you're afraid. Afraid of being rejected, disliked, abandoned. So, you stay soft, agreeable, and easy, hoping that will make others stay. But true kindness flows from freedom, not fear. If your kindness leaves you feeling small, drained, or resentful, it's not coming from love. It's coming from the fear of not being enough. People rarely talk about this. Society praises those who are always so sweet, so easy to get along with, but no one sees the pressure behind the smile. No one sees the swallowed words, the ignored needs, the late-night overthinking. This isn't about being a good person. It's about survival. Many learn early on that being too much leads to punishment or distance, so they shrink. They trade authenticity for acceptance, and the world keeps applauding while their inner world slowly crumbles. But there's another way. Start noticing the difference between real kindness and self-erasure. Ask yourself, am I doing this from love or fear? Am I being true or just trying to be liked? That kind of awareness changes everything. You don't have to stop being kind, but you do have to stop disappearing, because your presence, your truth, your full self, even when messy, is what allows real connection to exist. And learning to show up as you are is what opens the next door. Many people grow up thinking they need to earn love. Be the best, stay quiet, do what's expected. Love becomes something to win, not something to receive. But real love isn't a prize for perfection. It's not something you get only when you behave, succeed, or smile through pain. Real love holds space for you to rest, to mess up, to cry, to pause. If you feel like you constantly have to be better just to be loved, that's not love. That's pressure disguised as affection. In a healthy relationship, whether romantic, family, or friendship, you don't need to impress anyone. You don't have to keep performing, proving, pleasing. You can be tired and still be held. You can have a bad day and still be enough. Real love isn't about how useful or perfect you are. It's about whether you're seen and valued as you are. Not for your productivity, not for your image, but for your truth, even when it's quiet or messy or uncertain. So why do so many people stay stuck in performance mode? Because they were taught that love disappears when they're not good. But that's not love. That's conditioning. And the first step out of it is this. Let someone see the real you. Let yourself show up without the perfect words, without the smile, without the mask. Love that's real won't run away. It will lean in. And when you start to taste that kind of love, you begin to question everything you thought you had to be. How many times have you said, "It's okay, whatever you want," even when it wasn't okay at all? Or apologize for simply expressing a feeling? So many people, especially those who've been called too sensitive or too much, learn to make themselves small. They try to be easy to deal with, agreeable, low maintenance, hoping that will make them lovable. But here's the hard truth. Love that requires you to erase yourself isn't love. It's a performance, and one that slowly silences your voice. When you're always flexible, always accommodating, people stop asking what you need. You become the background in your own life. And little by little, your preferences disappear. You stop having favorites. You avoid conflict at all costs. You say, "I'm fine," even when something inside feels heavy. And all of this, it disconnects you from your own truth. You lose your center. You start to feel like a stranger to yourself. And ironically, you still fear being too much, even when you've already made yourself so little. Being easy to love shouldn't mean being invisible. You can be kind and still speak up. You can be loving and still have strong opinions. The people who truly care about you won't be pushed away by your truth. They'll be drawn to it. Real love isn't afraid of your full presence. It doesn't shrink when you have a boundary or a need or a voice. And the moment you realize that, something begins to shift. You stop apologizing for existing and start learning how to truly belong. The truth is, when you try to please everyone, you slowly lose yourself. It happens quietly. You give a little here, adjust a little there, say yes when you want to say no, until one day you realize you've become a version of yourself built entirely around other people's expectations. You don't know what you want anymore. You don't even know what brings you joy. You're present in your life, but not really living it. You feel like a guest in your own story, always serving others, never feeling at home. And it's not just identity that slips away. It's energy, time, dreams, opportunities. While you're busy managing how everyone else feels, your own needs pile up in the background, ignored. You miss out on chances to grow, to explore, to rest, because you're stuck trying to be everything for everyone. The irony? Even when you do all that, people still get upset. You still face criticism, because no matter how much you bend, you'll never be able to control how others see you. So what's left after all the pleasing? Often a quiet emptiness, a dull ache you can't name. You might look successful from the outside, but inside it feels like something is missing. Because it is. You are missing. The real you. The one who has dreams, boundaries, preferences, limits. And once you start to notice that absence, you can't unsee it. That's the moment something stirs inside you, something that whispers, there has to be more than this. One of the biggest fears people have when they stop pleasing others is this: will I become selfish? It's a valid concern, especially if you've been told your whole life that putting yourself first is wrong. But there's a huge difference between being selfish and being honest. Selfishness ignores others completely. Honesty includes yourself in the equation. It says, I matter too. And learning to value your own needs doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a whole person. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It's about protecting your peace, your time, your energy. For example, saying, I can't talk right now, but I'll call you tomorrow isn't rude. It's responsible. Declining a favor because you're tired or overwhelmed doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're listening to yourself. The more you practice this kind of clarity, the more natural it becomes. And soon, you'll notice, the people who truly love you won't be upset when you take care of yourself. They'll support it. If it feels too hard at first, start small. Set one boundary. Say one honest no. Speak one quiet truth. Watch how it feels. Notice the fear, but do it anyway. You're not being mean, you're being real. And real is what creates healthy relationships. Pleasing everyone leads to burnout, but respecting yourself leads to balance. And as that balance grows, something else starts to rise. A deeper, more honest kind of love. One that doesn't require you to shrink in order to belong. So many people wait for someone else to love them first. They think, if I'm loved enough, maybe I'll finally feel whole. But the truth is, no amount of outside love can fill the space where your own love is missing. Self-love isn't about being perfect or confident all the time. It's about telling yourself the truth. It's choosing to stay, even on the days when you feel broken. It's saying, I deserve kindness, even when you've made mistakes. And it's refusing to trade your real self for anyone's approval. Self-love is not just a concept. It's a daily practice. It shows up in small choices. The way you speak to yourself when you fail, the way you let go of toxic relationships, the way you stop chasing people who don't see your worth. It's saying no to what drains you and yes to what restores you. It's learning to sit with your emotions instead of running from them. The more you show up for yourself, the more you realize love isn't something to beg for. It's something to build from the inside out. And here's the shift. When you begin treating yourself with love, others start following your lead. They respond to the way you carry yourself. They notice your boundaries. They feel your peace. The love you give yourself sets the tone for every other connection in your life. So before asking, why won't they love me? Ask, do I truly love myself? Because once you do, the kind of love you accept from others will never be the same, and that changes everything that comes next. There's a silent trap many people live in, the fear of disappointing others. You don't speak your truth. You don't follow your gut. You say yes just to keep the peace, even when something inside you screams no. And slowly, that fear becomes a cage, a beautiful, polite cage. On the outside, everything looks calm, but on the inside, there's a storm. Because when you spend your life avoiding conflict, you create a quiet war within yourself. You sacrifice your own needs just to protect someone else's comfort. And maybe it works. Maybe they stay happy. But what about you? What about the parts of you that never get a voice? This kind of living builds tension that doesn't go away. It shows up in your body, in your sleep, in your moods. And here's the thing, even if you avoid every conflict, people will still be disappointed sometimes. It's part of life. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're human, and so are they. True love, real connection, deep respect, they all include space for disappointment. People who love you won't fall apart just because you said no. If they do, maybe they weren't really seeing you in the first place. You don't need to twist yourself into a version that's always agreeable. You need to be real. And when you give yourself permission to stop managing how others feel, you start feeling your own life again. That's where the real freedom begins. And it leads to a much deeper fear that many carry without even realizing. This fear doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It usually starts after a painful moment. A time when you were honest, vulnerable, maybe even joyful, and someone made you feel wrong for it. Maybe they laughed, maybe they criticized, maybe they left. And without even realizing it, you decided it's safer to hide. So you began trimming parts of yourself. You made your emotions smaller, your needs quieter, your presence softer, all in the name of being accepted. But acceptance that requires hiding is not real acceptance. Over time, hiding becomes automatic. You wear masks so well that even you forget who's underneath. You smile when you want to cry, you say you're fine when you're, and somewhere deep down, a part of you believes, if they see the real me, they'll leave. But what if that's not true? What if the right people, the ones meant for you, can only find you once you stop pretending? What if being seen is scary, but also healing? Here's the truth. Not everyone will accept the real you. But the people who do, they're worth everything. Because being loved while hiding is lonely, but being loved while fully seen, that's powerful. That's what sets you free. So start small, speak one truth, show one part of yourself you've kept hidden. Let someone see you, even just a little. That's how healing begins. And when you take that step, the kinds of relationships you attract will start to shift in ways you never expected. When you live to please, the people you attract often mirror that dynamic. You may find yourself surrounded by those who expect more, demand more, take more, because you've silently taught them that you'll always adjust, you'll always give in, you'll always say yes. And without realizing it, you become the one who bends while others stay rigid. You give your time, energy, and attention, but feel like no one truly sees you, only what you offer, only what you do. In these one-sided relationships, you might feel emotionally starved. You show up, stay loyal, go the extra mile, and still feel invisible. That's because you're being loved for the version of you that's easy to handle, not for the version that's honest, complex, or real. The people you attract when you hide your truth are often the ones who fear your truth. They don't want your authenticity. They want your compliance. And deep down, you start to sense that. It feels off, unbalanced, unsafe. But once you stop performing, everything changes. Some people will drift away, and yes, that can hurt. But it also clears space for deeper, more aligned connections. The kind where you don't have to guess your worth, where you don't have to apologize for your needs. The kind where you feel safe being fully seen. And that shift, from people who want your performance to people who want your presence, begins with one brave decision: to stop negotiating your essence in exchange for temporary approval. From a young age, many of us are taught that love is something we have to earn. Be good, be quiet, be helpful, don't be too much. And over time, that belief becomes a lens. We see every relationship as a test. If I do everything right, maybe they'll love me. Oh, but this is a trap. Real love isn't a reward. It's not a checklist. It's not something you need to chase or prove. Healthy love meets you where you are. It accepts you, not just when you shine, but also when you fall apart. To change this belief, you have to practice something new. Loving yourself first, not when you succeed, not when you're perfect, but right now, as you are. Start by noticing how you talk to yourself. Would you speak that way to someone you care about? Begin setting boundaries, not as punishment to others, but as protection for your peace. Say no without guilt. Rest without apologizing. Let people carry their own weight instead of always rescuing them. This is not selfishness, it's self-respect. Ask yourself this powerful question: who am I when I stop trying to be what others want? That question doesn't just unlock healing, it sets you free. Because love that has to be earned isn't love, it's control. And when you finally stop working for approval and start living from your truth, everything changes. The way you speak, the way you walk, the way people treat you. The most radical act is to know you are already worthy. And from that place, something beautiful begins to grow. Something powerful happens when you stop living to please others. You start living for real. You feel lighter, freer, more honest. For the first time, you wake up and your choices feel like yours. You say yes when it matters, and no when it protects your peace. You stop walking on eggshells and start walking with purpose. Some people won't like the new you, the one who sets boundaries, who speaks truth, who stops overgiving. But others, the right ones, they'll draw closer because now they're finally meeting the real you. Life becomes less about performance and more about presence. You're no longer chasing love like a prize. You're living it from the inside out. The relationships that remain are stronger, not because they're perfect, but because they're honest. You don't need to please to belong. You don't need to impress to be loved. You just need to show up as you are. And when you do, something shifts. The anxiety fades, the resentment lifts. And in its place, a deep sense of peace starts to rise. Emotional freedom doesn't look dramatic. It looks like resting without guilt, saying no without fear, laughing without editing yourself. It looks like choosing a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to come home to yourself. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never want to trade it again. Because the deepest kind of love in this is the one that begins with you. So now ask yourself, how many parts of you are still hiding just to be accepted? How much of your life has been shaped by trying to avoid disappointment, rejection, or judgment? Maybe today is the day you start choosing something different, something softer, something real. Because you don't need to shapeshift to be worthy of love. You don't need to please everyone just to belong. The moment you stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable is the moment you begin to live. What would change in your life if you stopped asking, do they love me? And started asking, am I loving myself enough to be honest? Are you ready to be fully seen, even if that means letting some people go? What's one small thing you can do today? Just one, to come back home to yourself? If any part of this video touched you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what hit the deepest. And if you haven't yet, feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. That way, you'll keep getting content that helps you reconnect, not with who they expect you to be, but with who you really are. Because healing doesn't begin with perfection. It begins with truth.